This is the first LEGO minifigure that ever came out in 1978 in LEGO set number 600. It is a policeman minifigure. After just 1 year in 1979, LEGO filed a US patent for the LEGO minifigure that we all now know and love. But I want to go back in time for a second, show you guys some original LEGO minifigures, and then I want to show you guys a secret that LEGO has been keeping from us all these years about the minifigure, and I want to dive into that. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the original LEGO minifigure. You guys have probably seen these in the past. These are really weird looking minifigures. They don't have any arms. The legs are like these weird brick slope pieces, and then most of them don't even have faces printed on them. They have either hats or hair pieces or no hair at all, and you can still actually buy these pieces on Bricklink. They are very expensive. I myself actually have a couple of them laying around, which is kind of cool to have, but they have no arms, no hands, very boring, but they do look like a minifigure. If we take a look back at some earlier prototypes of LEGO minifigures, you can see some of these don't even look like minifigures. I don't even know what LEGO is trying to get at with some of these. I understand it was a prototyping phase. You got to remember, this is probably back in the 70s, and they've got a lot of cool versions of these. You can see they were experimenting with different styles of hands, you know, full circular hands, different size hooks on the hands. We've got different torso shapes. We got some molded heads that have like ears and nose and eyes. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't like minifigures that have noses. And then we've got all sorts of different colors, different stickers. You can see in this picture, we're going to take a look at a couple different of the early space prototype minifigures going left to right. Actually, they look pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. I think it'd be cool to have some of these. And then, of course, on the far right, we have the generic classic spacemen. And then here's a look at some police minifigures. Once again, far left, you can see that weird molded headpiece. It'd actually be kind of cool to get one of these and have them. And then moving on to the no arms, much sleeker of a design, even though he's got no face print. And then moving on to, we've got a sticker now, some face printing. He's got an accessory. He's got a different hat. And then the far right is that minifigure I showed at the beginning. Very awesome with the legs, movable arms, the hands, basic smiley face. Everyone loves that, and a cool hat. That is the minifigure that we all know and love. Now, how do these minifigures get made? I've talked a lot about injection molding on my previous videos, but we're going to dive back into that for a second. So these are all injection molded, and the secret that LEGO has been keeping from us all of these years is there's a reason why the LEGO minifigure torso is the shape that it is. If we go back, let's rewind for a second and take a look at that far left picture of any of these minifigures I showed, the very generic one with the weird molded head. If you look at that torso, it's a rectangle, right? It's got straight walls, 90-degree corners, and all that jazz. Then if we move to the second minifigure, the one that has no arms, it has kind of just those bumps for the arms, but it's starting to get this trapezoid shape with the angles on the side, you know, shoulder to shoulder. There's a reason for that. Now let's move to the third minifigure. We have even more of a sloped angle. And then we go to the minifigure that we all know and love, that we all have probably sitting on our shelves and desks. There's a reason for this shape, guys, and I want to dive into this. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at, this is a picture of one of the mold inserts that LEGO provided on the 40th year anniversary of the minifigure. Now, if we take a look at this, what are we looking at? Okay, so obviously we can see two red torsos in this picture, and then these are two steel cores that go into a larger mold assembly. So there would be multiples of these in a larger mold, and that way if one of them gets damaged, they can easily replace just small sections of the mold instead of remaking the whole mold. Once again, I talked about this in my LEGO chain video. These injection molds are very expensive. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and especially for the precision that LEGO requires to get the clutch fit and all of the nice finishes. So if we take a look, we've got the torsos there. And if we zoom in on the one on the right-hand side that is showing the neck piece inside the mold, you can start to see, once again, the generic trapezoid shape. Now, in injection molding terms, there is a term called draft angles. That's what we're going to be talking about today. There's a lot of videos on YouTube explaining draft angles. It's a very common practice, but I want to try to break it down for you guys in this video for people that have no experience with this type of thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at a 2x4 brick. Here is a quick model that I drew up, and let's go ahead and take a look at something. If we go ahead and look at the side here, obviously, if you guys don't already know, but LEGO bricks have to have 90-degree corners on all these outside edges so you can build up right next to them and there's no gap in between the LEGO bricks. Now, that's totally fine, But in injection molding, you have to have some kind of draft angle. Now, what is draft angle? Let me go ahead and illustrate that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and hide this, and let's go ahead and make a simple cube here. Let's just do a 1 inch by 1 inch cube, and we'll go ahead and make this 1.5 inches here. So once again, these are all 90-degree corners. Everyone gets that. Everyone's on the same page. But if I go ahead and add draft, let's go ahead and add 5 degrees there of draft. You can see there is an angle to this, right? So there's 0 degrees. Those are 90-degree corners still. And then we add 5 degrees, or we could even add just 1 degree. And there's a slight difference. And if we go ahead and we measure this, we've got 1.026 inches here, and we've got 1 inch there. So there is a angle to this. That is draft angles. So what does this mean? Let's go ahead and show you guys why this matters in injection molding, and then we'll come back to the Lego brick example. Okay, let's show you guys why draft is important in injection molding. So we have 2 examples here. Let's take a look at this first example. So pretend the white piece is the mold, and pretend this is the part that we're making, and this is 1/2 of the mold. So pretend the hot plastic got pushed into the mold. This is our part, and now we have ejector pins that are going to push the red part out of the mold. Now I'll put on screen a couple clips of ejector pins pushing parts out of molds. You guys have probably seen this before, but I'll put a couple up on screen now. So this part has 90-degree corners, like I showed you guys before. So there's no draft angle on this. It's completely 90-degree corners, 90-degree corners there. So if I go ahead and put this in here, and if we simulate ejector pins pushing this part out of the mold, you can see there is some stiction, and if you look, there is no gap between the part and the walls of the mold until it's all the way out, and now it can move freely. Now, the reason why this is a problem is because air gets trapped in here, creates a vacuum, and then as this is being tried push out, it's creating suction, and then also it's causing friction on the side of the mold and the side of the part. So that can lead to, like I said, a airtight seal, but then also it can scratch the side of your part. So pulling this out of the mold, it is very difficult. So that is the reason why we add draft, and I can show you guys that here. So this part, you can see this has 5 degrees of draft. So you can see there's draft angles on there. So let's do the same little thing. So if I go to start pulling this part out, the second it moves, there is a gap, and air can get into this back area here and fill that void. And also, you can see I can move it up and down. And so the second you move it, now there's some wiggle room, and now air can get in there and it can eject way more freely. So that is why draft is so important. And it's actually funny, this kind of does look like the shape of a torso. So that is exactly why draft is very important. You need that for multiple reasons, but those being a few of them. So that is my little example for you guys. Okay, so if we take a look at this cross section, this is provided by Engineering Guy on YouTube. Basically, you can see there is a draft on the inside of the Lego brick, not on the outside, because we need that sharp 90-degree corners on the outside. We can put the draft angle on the inside. You can see it's thinner at the bottom and wider at the top, around 1.5 degrees of draft. Normally in injection molding, anywhere from 1 to 5 degrees in that range is normally the standard. Any more than that, and it's going to start to make your part look weird. So why does all this matter, right? I'm telling you guys about this weird thing called draft angles. To a lot of you guys have probably already clicked off and don't care what I'm talking about. But if you've stuck around, this is why the Lego minifigure is shaped like this. If we go back to that picture of just a generic Lego torso, that outside is the draft angle. There's no draft on the inside of the torso. The actual shape of the torso is the draft angle. That is why it's shaped like that. And if we go ahead and we take a look back at those very first pictures, that's why Lego started to stray away from that rectangular brick blocky torso piece, and they started moving to that trapezoid shape, having that draft angle. So I know this was a long-winded video to explain that, but I wanted you guys to understand, or hopefully understand, why draft angle is important, why it's on Lego parts, and this is the exact reason why the torso is shaped like that, is because it has that natural draft angle to it, and you don't have to do any craziness, because the torso piece itself is a very small piece. There's not a lot of room to add any kind of draft angles on the inside. Yes, there is some small angles on the inside, but overall, it is the outside edge. That is why it is shaped like that. So guys, and another thing too, if you look on the top of the neck of a Lego torso piece, you can actually see where the ejector pin is. And so that is exactly where the draft is. And overall, I think it's a really cool design. I think it's genius. And I didn't know this until a couple years ago, and still I started digging really into it. And I hope you guys learned something from this. Let me know if you guys want me to do more videos like this, and I'll see you next time.